tiny little mantis on a tiny little succulent had been searching the garden to find out where her father went. Once she asked her mother where he'd gone, to which she told her, "Don't you worry about it, love, you'll find out when you're older." A tiny little mantis on a tiny little succulent had been searching the garden at a slow and steady pace. Although she didn't know exactly where she'd find her father, she bet that she would find him in a beautiful place. Because although her mother rarely talked about her father, she always did admit that he had wonderful taste. A tiny little mantis on a tiny little succulent was searching for her father when she found somebody else. Another tiny mantis, such a charming little suitor, and soon she would decide that she would like to know him well. Well, the tiny little mantis and the tiny little suitor came closer to each other and both took a little chance. The tiny little mantis and the tiny little suitor then started doing something that looked something like a dance. Now, our tiny little mantis had been searching through the garden, and hardly did she get a chance to get something to eat. But wouldn't you believe it, in that moment when she looked at her tiny little suitor, she saw quite a tasty treat. Well, a couple moments later, a couple things had happened. He's gone, but she would cherish what little time they spent alone upon the tiny little succulent. Our mantis finally did realize just where her father